30 years. Every single morning, without interruption. Through the summer heat that turned the lawns brown by August, through the winter mornings when the air was sharp enough to make your eyes water before you reached the mailbox, through the births and the graduations and the seasons of grief that visited each house at different times in different forms. 30 years of mornings, and she never learned that woman's name, not once. She waved. The woman across the lawn waved back. The exchange lasted less than 4 seconds. Most mornings, the wave was genuine, not hostile, not performed, not the minimum social courtesy she had heard people describe. It was a real wave, a daily acknowledgement, the kind of gesture you make to someone you are glad to see. 30 years of being glad to see someone, 30 years of not knowing who they were. The 1950s American suburb was built for proximity. Understand this first. The architects of the post-war American dream positioned houses close together on purpose. The lots were modest, the driveways nearly touching, the lawns separated by nothing more than a row of low shrubs or a border of stones. You could hear your neighbor's dinner conversation through a shared wall. You could smell their Sunday pot roast from your own kitchen. You could watch their bedroom light go on and off from your own bedroom window, which faced theirs at an angle that nobody had thought to make private. Proximity was the point. The suburb promised community. The housing catalogs of the 1950s used words like neighborhood and belonging as selling features, the same way they sold the 2-car garage and the modern kitchen. What the catalogs did not include in the fine print was this: proximity and intimacy are not the same thing. They never were. And the suburb, despite engineering closeness into its very architecture, produced something quite different from the community it advertised. It produced adjacency. Adjacency is proximity without obligation. It is the agreement arrived at without discussion, that the people on either side of your property line are not your people, not in the way your family is your people, or your close friends, or the women from your church circle who have seen you cry. Neighbors were something else. They were a specific category with specific rules, and the most important rule was this: you maintained warmth without requiring depth. The wave was not a failure of connection. This is the essential thing to understand. The wave was, in the social vocabulary of that era, a completely successful and correctly executed social act. It communicated exactly what it was supposed to communicate. I see you. I bear you no ill will. We share this space and I am comfortable in that sharing. It was not supposed to communicate, tell me who you are, tell me what you carry, tell me what goes on behind your front door after it closes for the evening. Those were different questions. They belonged to a different kind of relationship. And in the carefully maintained social grammar of the suburban block, that kind of relationship required an invitation that almost nobody knew how to extend. So they waved. Year after year, across a distance of perhaps 40 feet, the sociologists who studied this and the decades that followed would eventually produce a phrase for it. They called it atomized isolation, a community of adjacent solitudes. Each household, a self-contained unit sharing a street, but not a life. Robert Putnam, decades later, would write about the collapse of social capital in American life and trace much of it back to precisely this architecture, this design philosophy that prioritized privacy over connection and called the result neighborliness. But the women living it did not have those words. They had the wave. And the wave, for what it was enough. It had to be. Here is the question that does not get asked often enough. What did she know about that woman? After 30 years of mornings, what had accumulated? She knew that the woman woke earlier in summer than in winter. She knew that she wore a housecoat some mornings and a proper dress on others, and that the housecoat mornings correlated with something, a bad night, perhaps, or a week when things at home were difficult in whatever specific way things could be difficult in that house, which she did not know. She knew that the woman had a husband who left for work at 7:15, and that there were years when a car she didn't recognize was in the driveway on certain evenings, and other years when that stopped. She knew that one summer, it was 1963 or 1964, she was not certain the woman's front curtains stayed closed for 3 weeks straight, and that when they opened again, the woman was thinner and moved more slowly. She knew all of this. She had never asked about any of it. This was not incuriosity. She was curious. She had been curious about that woman for 30 years in the passive, persistent way that you are curious about someone who exists at the exact boundary of your social permissions. She had never verified a single one of them. And she knew, if she was honest with herself, which she was, occasionally, in the hours when no one was watching, that the versions she had constructed might be completely wrong, that the real woman across the lawn might be nothing like the woman she had built from 30 years of morning impressions, that the stranger she had been glad to see every morning might be a stranger in every sense of the word. This knowledge sat beside the affection she felt for her neighbor without canceling it. She had been fond of that woman for 30 years. She remained fond of her. The fondness was real. It was just that it was fondness for someone she had invented, and she had never had to reckon with the difference. There was a language for it in that era. Not a spoken language, a behavioral one. The wave meant, good morning. The brief pause on the porch meant, I have a moment, but not many. The comment about the weather meant, I wish you well, L, within the limits of what we are to each other. Every one of these gestures was precise. Everyone carried exactly as much weight as it was designed to carry, and no more. The system worked. If you understood it, and everyone who lived on a block in those years understood it. It communicated efficiently and clearly, and with a kind of warmth that was real within its own register. It simply could not carry more than it was built to carry. She had known this woman for 30 years. She had seen her through summers and winters. She had noted her absence when she was gone. She had been subtly, quietly relieved when she returned. But when the for sale sign went up, this was 1974. The house was too big after the husband passed. She was moving closer to her daughter in another state. She had stood at her own window and watched the truck come and go, and felt something she had no adequate name for. Not grief, exactly. Not the loss of a friend, because they had not been friends. Something more particular. The loss of a presence she had relied on without knowing she was relying on it. The disappearance of someone who had been part of the daily architecture of her life, as constant as the elm tree at the property edge, as familiar as the pattern on the mailbox post, and whose name she had never once asked. The truck finished. The door closed. The driveway was empty. She stood at the window. She did not know what she was mourning. She only knew that it was real. Her daughter found the photograph 3 years after the move. It was in a miscellaneous drawer, not the bottom drawer, the ordinary one, the one full of the small, practical accumulation of decades. A photograph that had fallen out of some larger collection and landed there, forgotten. It showed the front of their old house from the street, taken in summer, the lawn at its most maintained, the geraniums in the porch pots, the sunlight doing what summer sunlight does to old photographs, and in the background, barely in frame, almost an accident of composition, the front porch of the house next door. And on that porch, blurred by distance and the limitations of a 1960s camera lens, a woman. Her daughter showed it to her mother. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, "That's her. That's the woman from next door." Her daughter looked at the blurred figure. She said, "What was her name?" And the silence that followed was not the silence of someone searching their memory. It was the silence of someone arriving late at a question they should have asked much earlier. "I don't know," she said. "We waved at each other every morning for 30 years, and I don't know." Her daughter held the photograph for a while. She did not know what to do with the information. It felt like something important, though she could not have said precisely what it was important about. Later, she thought about it the way you think about things that don't resolve cleanly, returning to it at odd intervals, in the middle of other thoughts. She thought about the particular mechanics of it. 30 years is 10,950 mornings, roughly. 10,950 waves. 10,950 moments of genuine, daily recognition between two people who remained, for all of that time, entirely unknown to each other. She thought about her own neighbors. She tried to name them. She could name two. She resolved, for about a week, to do better. And she thought in the way that children inevitably think about their parents' lives, with a mixture of clarity and distance that is its own particular sorrow, that her mother had not been unusual, that the 30 years and the unnamed woman were not a failure of her mother specifically, but a document of something much larger, of the specific kind of loneliness that the suburb was built to conceal, of the way a social architecture can produce all the gestures of community while leaving the community itself perpetually just out of reach, of the wave across the lawn that contains, somehow, both warmth and distance simultaneously, both of them real, both of them true, and the name still unknown. After all that time, still unknown, the wave had meant, "I see you." It turned out that was not the same as, "I know you." It never had been. And yet, In the years after the truck came and the driveway went empty and a different family moved in and became their turn, the neighbors across the lawn, she found that she thought about that woman more than she had thought about her when she was there. That absence had accomplished something proximity never had. That 30 years of mornings, logged silently, accumulated into something that had weight and shape and texture only after it was gone. She did not learn the name. There was no way to learn it now, but she kept the photograph in a drawer.